أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، إنه من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له يحيي ويميت وهو حي لا يموت وهو على كل شيء قدير، وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقائدنا وقرة أعيننا وقدوتنا محمد صلوات ربي وسلامه عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين، اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين، اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في كل وقت وحين، اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين، وارض اللهم عن آله وعن الصحابة والتابعين، وارض اللهم عنا معهم أجمعين. يا أيها الناس اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون، فإن خير الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أما بعد. Inshallah, today I want to talk to you about something I hope most people here already know about, which is Surah Al-Kahf. Many people know Jum'ah, you read Surah Al-Kahf. And I probably can assume many of the people that I'm looking at right now have already read the surah today. Surah Al-Kahf. The name is pretty innocuous, the cave, is mentioned in multiple ahadith, which is why obviously many people read it on Friday. That's one of the ahadith. In a different hadith by Abi Sa'id al-Khudri, if I'm not mistaken, he says, "Man qara'a Surah Al-Kahf yawm al-Jum'ah, أضاء له نورا ما بين الجمعتين." So whomever reads Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, there's a light lit for them until the next Friday. And there's actually multiple ahadith that tie this surah to the concept of light. Many young people, and I go to MSAs a lot and I speak at youth groups, many of them are, if not memorized, are familiar with Surah Al-Kahf, even though they probably couldn't read the first page of Surah Al-Baqarah, right? They couldn't recite it, because we read Surah Al-Kahf so often. And so, multiple ahadith, people memorizing the surah, having it be something that's repeated every week, these are indicators that we need to think, why is this something that's happening? Why is the surah being emphasized in the way that it is? And why is it connected to light? What makes this surah special? So the story of Surah Al-Kahf, basically, is there are 4 different tests, 4 different challenges that are inside of the surah that are explained. What is the challenge and how people overcame the challenge that's presented. I don't think anybody here is going to be shocked when I say that our life is basically a series of tests. As soon as you're done with something, there's another thing. As soon as you think, Alhamdulillah, we finished this thing, there's another thing. It's back to back. It doesn't stop. And so, I want you to imagine, this is the tadabbur when you're thinking about the Quran. When you're reading Surah Al-Kahf next time, try to recall some of these lessons, inshallah, that we're going to highlight. Because some of the tests that are mentioned here are some of the hardest that humans go through. And there's some that are very similar to our current day today, inshallah. Okay. The surah is a light. There are 4 tests. We're going to look at the tests, and we're going to apply those, inshallah, in our lives. The first test is the one that the surah is named after. The test of the youth in the cave. Now, I've seen people talk about it in different ways. But for me, Because this is the focus of the surah, when I think about the test that they're going through, there are people who live in a land where they are Muslims, they believe in Allah, they submit their will to God, but everybody around them does not. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to figure out why this surah is relevant, right? Why this test is relevant. Young people living in a society, and they're the few believers in a land of mostly disbelievers. Our people, they believe in polytheism, they've taken multiple gods over Allah. Is that all that they do? Is it a peaceful coexistence between these people? Not really. إنهم يظهروا عليكم يرجموكم أو يعيدوكم في ملتهم ولن تفلحوا إذا أبدا. If they find you, speaking about the youth in the cave, the society, they're going to kill you, or they're going to ask you to come back to the false religion that they're believing in, the polytheism that they believe in. We don't have a direct parallel to this, but again, how often, and the examples are plenty, have you been put in a situation where your faith is tested? How often have we seen people, all of us are in WhatsApp groups, all of us have Instagram, where we've seen people recently take stands, say something that is perfectly in their right to say. They're standing up for something that's right, for justice. But those people are threatened with losing their jobs, they're threatened with being suspended from a degree, they're 3 or 4 years almost done, khalas. They're beaten and attacked. And that's one extreme. There's day-to-day examples all the time where we're put in a situation, am I going to go to Jum'ah this week or not? Am I going to have the courage to ask for this day off, or have the leeway to ask for this day off or not? Am I going to choose this thing or the easier thing? And I don't want to focus just on the test, because, like we said at the beginning, the whole point of the surah is that it's a light. We're looking to the guide. So how did they overcome this test? They're tested in their faith. But Allah uses the surah to highlight the value of a Muslim youth. We're talking about a group of people. They escape and go to a cave. And for these youth, Allah commands the sun to change its course for them. He gives them a miracle. For 300 years, they're able to survive away from these people in a cave. Just for them, the Muslim youth. Because they're in a sea of disbelief. That's the value that they have. And something else that sticks out to me, again, I give this talk a lot at youth groups and MSAs, the value of being among the Muslimin. The value of staying within the group of the righteous. Everywhere that you go in this society, your school, work, just walking through the grocery store, it's trying to pull you away from the deen. But think of the dog in this story of the youth. وَكَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعَيْهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ. This is a creature mentioned in the Quran for eternity. 1400 years have passed and we're still mentioning this dog, longer from when the youth were in the cave. And his only deed is he associated himself with the righteous people. Staying with the righteous people, he gets mentioned in the Quran. There are prophets we don't know the names of. They're mentioned just as a number. وَعَزَّزْنَا بِثَالِث. That the prophet was added. We have no idea who this prophet is. This is the benefit of befriending and being with the Muslims. Having the unity, be with the Muslims, that's a strength in and of itself. The first test is the test of faith. And they pass this test by being among the Muslimin, holding true to what they believe in. The second test comes in the surah, is a test, again, very easy. Every single person in this room has fallen into this, or faced this test. In a capitalist society, the way the economy works here is the test of wealth. The story talks about two friends. One of them is rich, he has gardens, a river, etc., and the other friend is less well off. إذ قال لصاحبه وهو يحاوره أن أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا. His sin is not being wealthy. His sin is that he lets his wealth make him arrogant. I have more wealth than you. I have more influence than you. And again, translating to the modern parlance, I know the crowd isn't that many young people, but followers, influence in our social groups. That's all wealth. How our house looks, how our car looks. Posting something online even. Just a picture of whatever you're doing, where you are. All of these can be completely normal things, or they can be things that are increasing your sins. Why? Because they're infused with arrogance. ما أظن أن تبيد هذه أبدا وما أظن الساعة قائمة. His arrogance leads him to go even further. The farther you stray away from Allah, the easier it becomes to stray. The higher in arrogance you go, the more you believe, well, yeah, I'm doing something wrong, but Allah has forgiven me. Khalas, it's fine. Because I have so much wealth. Because everything is so easy in my life. If this was wrong, it would have gone away. It's the centering of capitalism in our society, and the centering of wealth and gathering wealth makes it feel like it's the only goal. Many times you advise somebody about something and tell you, you don't have to you're getting too much in the details. You're worrying too much about the halal and the haram. Allah is forgiving. Allah is merciful. This is a trick from shaitan. And it's actually rooted in arrogance, in believing that because I'm well off, Allah is giving me these things. So I'm good. وَلَئِنْ رُدِدتُّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا. So you're worried about all this stuff and the details, but where's your fancy car? Where's your fancy house? This is a sign that Allah has already accepted my deeds. Allah has given me in this dunya because I'm a righteous person. This idea, again, shows up in many different ways in modern society. That if I'm wealthy in this dunya, it's actually even in American Western society, there's a concept of the Protestant work ethic, which is that Protestants, because they believe in good works, so the more you do, the more God will give you. So the better person you are, the wealthier you'll be. And again, it permeates in our society in many different ways. There's a story from actually the brother who I first heard tell this khutbah, talk about the four tests of Surah Al-Kahf. He talks about how his father used to know people who were part of the Islamists back in Egypt, and then they were rounded up in the prisons back then when that was happening. This is back in like the 60s and 70s. And then they were all freed, and they ended up in the Khalij, in the Gulf states. And so his father is telling him a story about how those people who are being tortured, who are being punished for being on the deen, were able to stay steadfast in jail. But when the dunya opened up a little bit for them, when they had a little bit of money in their hands, in the Gulf states, many of them started falling off of the things that they used to do. The day-to-day tasks that they used to do, the khair that they were participating in, the Islam that united them, it splintered when they had wealth in their hands. So the test of wealth is not easy. So how does his friend, back to the story now, how does the friend bring his other friend back? So the wealthy friend, the arrogant friend, he now needs a reality check. What does the poorer friend tell him? أَكَفَرْتَ بِالَّذِي خَلَقَكَ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ ثُمَّ سَوَّاكَ رَجُلًا. He does two things. The first is he tells him, did you forget where you came from? You were nothing. You're not the reason that you are the way you are right now. You didn't choose to be created. How can you be ungrateful to the Creator who created you? That's the first thing he tells him. وَلَوْلَا إِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ قُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Not only are you nothing and we're created, but when you do get something, that is through the grace of Allah. How many people wish they had the opportunities that you had? I studied, I went, I got, I learned, I earned. This society teaches you, just by existing here, It's you. You did it. Good job. You're awesome. You deserve. But his friend is reminding him, Allah created you. Allah created the opportunities that He gave you. Allah gave you the brain that you have, the body that you have, the circumstances that you're in. Nobody here is going to have trouble imagining circumstances that are more difficult than the ones they're in right now. All of you can close your eyes and think of something 10 times, 100 times harder than what you're in. And that is by the mercy of Allah. Allah has given you these opportunities. And so when you do earn something, when you do make something, you give it the credit back to Allah. That's the first two lessons of Surah Al-Kahf. Inshallah, I'm going to go into the second two lessons in the second half. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم واستغفروه فإنه غفور رحيم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. May Allah accept your istighfar, Ya Rabb, and grant you all Jannah and reunite us there. Ameen. Test number 3 and 4. The third test comes from the third story mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf, which is the story of Musa and Al-Khidr. Now this story talks about Musa. He was in a gathering. This is the background of the story. And in this gathering, somebody asked him, who's the most knowledgeable person? Thinking that he's Rasulullah, he's the person who speaks to God. He said, I'm the most knowledgeable. Not out of arrogance, but just, that's his answer. He's thinking, who else would it be? So Allah sends to Musa and tells him, no, there's somebody else. There's somebody else who's more knowledgeable than you. وَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. He has knowledge that you don't have. So the first lesson actually from this test of knowledge, which is, again, a test all of us have, فَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. So there's always somebody who knows more. Make sure to keep the ego in check when you learn something. Yeah, that's the first lesson. The second part of this is how Sayyidina Musa reacts. Again, not out of arrogance, but he is a prophet. He does speak to Allah directly. Can you imagine having that and having your ego have to fight that I speak to God? But he reacts to it as a student of knowledge should. When he finds out that there's knowledge somewhere that he needs to have, that he doesn't have and somebody else has it, لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبة. That's his reaction. I'm not going to stop. I will go to the ends of the earth to find this person because there's knowledge somewhere that I can learn. Determination. And not just determination, humble determination. Because when he gets there, how does he react to Al-Khidr? This is the Prophet of Allah, Musa. The person who speaks to Allah directly. And he's sitting in front of just a guy that we know as a righteous man. That's it. He has nothing special about him other than he is a righteous man. هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا? Can you allow me to come with you to learn from what you have been taught? This is true humility from people. This is how we should treat people of knowledge, people who are older than us, people who've learned an ayah of the Quran more than we know. People who spend their life for the sake of Allah, this is how we should treat them. You know the rest of the story, most of us, and if you don't, please read Surah Al-Kahf. Regardless, they go through a few interactions. Musa and Al-Khidr, they get on a boat, and Al-Khidr makes a hole in the boat, and Musa's like, why would you do that? And it's not just any boat, by the way. This is a boat of people, working people. They're using the boat to earn their livelihood, and they got a free ride on the boat. So they wanted to cross, and the people were working, and they're like, hey, we'll take you across. So this is somebody who's done them a favor, and then he's messing with their boat. But Khidr had made a condition. Don't ask me about things until I explain them to you. So Musa fails this test. Sayyidina Musa's like, I forgot. Keep going. They keep going. Al-Khidr kills a child. And again, you're talking about a prophet of Allah. And Sayyidina Musa is not just a prophet of Allah. Sayyidina Musa is a person of action. When you look at the rest of his stories that are told about him, when he sees the two people fighting, immediately he steps into action to save the guy who was going to die, and he pushes the other guy. And again, even when he escapes from Egypt, he's sitting under a tree. He just escaped with his life. People are chasing him. He doesn't even know what's going on or where he is. And he sees people who need help, then he goes to help them. So Sayyidina Musa is a person of action. He's not going to see somebody murder a child and completely just sit down. He's like, stop, what are you doing? Again, Al-Khidr tells him, I know what you don't know. So you're supposed to be patient. The final interaction, they go to a town, and the town refuses to help them. They're starving. This is two people, a prophet of God and a righteous man, travelers. There's so many reasons for them to help, but for some reason, the town is like, no, we're not going to help you. And they have food, and then we'll give them. So as they're leaving, they see a wall that's crumbling, and Al-Khidr decides, we're going to fix this wall. And Musa's like, there's people who helped us, and then a child, we kill them. And then these people are horrible to us. They literally have the ability to help us, and they won't help us, and for some reason we're going to help them. This doesn't make any sense. So Al-Khidr eventually tells him, Khalas, this is the end, we're going to go our separate ways. But he tells him, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you the knowledge that you weren't able to be patient for. In each action, there's a hidden wisdom that each of us can benefit from. Again, we're not put in exactly the same situations that these people have been put through, but there's qiyas here. Okay. This first one is actually my favorite, the boat. The boat was going to be taken by a king. So they're about to get to an area where there's a king who's stealing boats to build a navy. But because Al-Khidr had put a hole in the boat, the king wasn't going to take this one. Now, they need this boat to live. They use this boat to earn their livelihood. Yeah, it's broken. They're going to fix it. And then they'll go about their way. But if it was perfect, when the king found it, he would have taken it and they would have lost their livelihood. The child was going to grow up, and by the description, he was going to become a tyrant. He was going to make his parents struggle so much to the point of becoming kuffar. And because Allah has knowledge of this, now that the child he died before he gets any punishment, he enters Jannah, Allah says He's going to give them a new child. A merciful child. And the wall, it was hiding treasure for 2 orphans in the city. And because the orphans aren't old enough, they can't take advantage of their money. And obviously the society, the town that they're in is not a welcoming place. Allah decided that right now, these orphans are going to struggle. They're going to live in this society like this until they're ready, inshallah, to receive that wealth. And they're strong and they're able to protect it. Now, how many of us in this room are the people in the boat? How many of us are sitting in the boat looking at a hole and just, why is this happening? I've come to the masjid, I prayed Fajr today. I can't handle this. Why is this specific situation happening to me? How many of us are looking at a wall that's crumbling and we don't know that there's wealth hidden for us, and we're focused just on what we don't have right now? We want the treasure to appear now, but Allah knows when is the right time for you to receive it. We want the boat to be perfect the whole time, but Allah knows when you need to have a flat tire and when you need your boat to be running perfectly. You need to trust in the knowledge of Allah. You need to put your faith in Allah. As Sayyidina Musa does. One of my favorite examples of having faith in the Quran is Sayyidina Musa. When he's running away from Egypt with his people, and they are looking in front of them at the ocean, and they know Fir'aun is behind them with an army. And they tell him, Inna la mudrakun. They tell him straight up, Musa, you failed us. We're done. They got us. That's their reaction. What does he say to them? Kalla. He said, no way. Inna ma'i rabbi sayahdeen. Allah is with me. I'm going to find a way. It's going to, it's done. That's the type of faith that we need to have when we're in situations like this. Again, it's Sayyidina Musa. Again, he's one of the best stories that I love to tell, is the story of Sayyidina Musa. Okay. For the sake of time, I'm going to rapidly go through the last test, which is the test of power. Dhul Qarnayn, powerful man. Allah has given him power, and he's put in many different situations. None of us here are a king, but he's put in many situations that we are put through all the time. An older brother to a younger brother, a father in his household, a manager at work, a leader in any way, shape, or form, in the masjid or outside the masjid, in society, at your school. You are put in leadership positions all the time. The first situation that he's put in, he's asked, what are you going to do with these people? And his reaction is, I will implement Allah's justice in this world. He says, أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه ثم يرد إلى ربه فيعذبه عذابا نكرا وأما من آمن وعمل صالحا فله جزاء الحسنى وسنقول له من أمرنا يسرا. He has power over a specific group of people, and when he's asked what he's supposed to do with these people, he doesn't say, well, whose family are they from? Well, what country are they born in? Well, what have they done to me before? Maybe their people and my people don't get along. Are they Egyptians or Indians? Do they speak Arabic? That's not his reaction. When you're put in a situation where you have power to act towards other people, this is what you should be thinking. The people who are following the rules of Allah, the people who are obeying Allah, I'm going to treat those people as they should be treated, and the people who are fighting against me or doing something to harm others, I'm going to defend the people who are being oppressed. I'm not going to worry about who's this and who's that. That's his first situation that he's put in. I want to skip to the third situation that he's put in because, again, it's one of the highlights of the surah. Nobody here is a king, but often we're put in the same situation. He's asked for help. Dhul Qarnayn is going with his army, and there's people who need help. فهل نجعلك خرجا على أن تجعل بيننا وبينهم سدا? Can we pay you so that you can help us, please? We're desperate people, and we want to pay you to help us. قال ما مكنني فيه ربي خير. What Allah has given me is better. I am able to help. He was able to build this wall for them, which we can get into that. He makes like a metal alloy. Besides the point. The point is, Allah has given him specific knowledge. Allah has given him a specific talent, a specific skill, specific circumstances, and he's not taking advantage of those to make money from other people, to take advantage of other people. If you ever want to use the resources that we have at our disposal, you can look up the net worth of senators or mayors, even small local politicians, before they were elected and after they're elected. Everybody's net worth, as soon as they're in a position of power, their net worth goes, because they're able to take advantage of that power to make money. And we use this in many, many, many different ways where we're able to help and we don't. We withhold help from people. And even when he does succeed, what does he say? هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَبِّي. He does what we said earlier about making sure to give credit to Allah. I want to recap quickly for time the 4 tests and the 4 solutions, inshallah, so that we may, inshallah, even if one of these tests connects with you the next time you're reading Surah Al-Kahf, apply it in your life. The first test was the test of faith, and the people who were tested with that survived their test by staying among the Muslimin. The second test was the test of wealth, and the person survived his test by being humble, remembering to return everything to Allah. The third test, the test of knowledge. Trust in Allah. You don't have the full picture, and you never will have the full picture. Believe in Allah, and Allah will guide you through, inshallah. Inna ma'i rabbi sayahdeen. Often I've been put in situations where I just have to say out loud, Inna ma'i rabbi sayahdin. You have no idea the power of remembering that. The final test was a test of power. When we're put in situations where we have power over people or we can help people, and again, being humble, returning the credit to Allah is how, inshallah, you pass through this test. May Allah bless all of you in here. I wanted to take 30 seconds to let you know. My name is Amr. I'm here from Islamic Relief. We actually have a table outside. No fundraising or anything, but we have a Quran night that's happening on June 8th, Saturday, and it's going to be in Anaheim area. So if you have questions, come talk to us at the table. We also have Qurbani for people who want to do their Qurbani or take a sheet. That way you can do it when you're ready, inshallah. And don't forget your masjid from your donations, inshallah. These masajid are how we maintain the community, inshallah. Yeah. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين. اللهم اشفنا واشف أمراضنا وأمراض المسلمين. وارحم اللهم موتانا وموتى المسلمين. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم وأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واستقيموا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أنا عمر بس الله الله سبحانه وتعالى. The Islamic Relief is one of the largest Islamic organizations all over the world. So please support them and stop by the table. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all the Muslim organizations.
آمين آمين.
Also, please be generous and support the masjid. Support this masjid and you help. And as always, inshallah, help Allah minhum, Allah here. If you have any feedback for us, please provide us and don't hold any feedback. Allah minhum. Assalamu alaikum.